and potentially lose money if, less is going to them to do credit, to like run like background checks and credit reports and stuff. Isn't there, potentially fight like less money to go to the property managers and TransUnion?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it sounds like there was a twofold question. Property managers, that was the biggest question mark for us. Like, would they want to give up this revenue stream? So we talked to a bunch of them, and at the end of the day, what we found was that landlords and property managers are pretty lazy. They're self-admittedly lazy too. It's not like I'm making that up. Like they were like, yeah, like we just don't want to do work. Like we want no hassle, no headache. Because if you look at the application fee, like in California, it's capped at $35, right? So they pay around $20 for all this information, $25. So their profit margin is $10. When you look at that compared to the overall deal size of renting an apartment, like we're talking about $10 on like, potentially like a $10, $15, $20,000 deal. So they're not that concerned about the $10. TransUnion, on the other hand, is very concerned about their profit margins. And we've worked out a license with them. Like basically, we pay them additional fees. The cost of our goods is factored in basically to their business model.
Oh, okay.
So we had a conversation with them before being like, all right, well, we want to do this. What do we have to do?
Okay, so you guys communicate pretty often.
Yeah, we have a business partnership with TransUnion.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
Yeah.
In the families paying Finret for this application dispersal, it sounds like, as opposed to paying the landlords the fee, would the fee be the same as it would be as if they were to pay the landlords? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
The fees are comparable. It's basically 1-to-1. But instead of paying for like in just one application, when you pay the same application to us, you can apply to as many apartments as you want.
Right.
So is your only revenue stream filing the paperwork, the $35 fee, or is that you have multiple revenue streams?
So for this product, yes. So the short answer, yes. The long answer is that like we actually have two products that we're working on mashing together right now, and we have a separate stream of revenue coming from the other product. We sell like basically this. Well, actually, this is actually pretty easy. We sell this service to landlords, and then we're working on building out this service right here.
So as you're saying, like the only revenue source is what the fees for the families pay as like their fee. Would you ever consider kind of being like the real estate agent in a way of taking commission? 'Cause like as a student, if you're going to come to colleges, like that would also help to kind of find that, and maybe you could kind of bring that revenue stream as a commission, or do you consider that?
Did anybody here use a real estate agent to find an apartment? Like any hands? Yeah. So oh no. Hang on a sec. Give me a sec here. So in California, the model for real estate agents helping people lease homes is very much more on the landlord side. The landlords, like they always engage real estate agents because like they make a ton of money off of like leasing out their property. But tenants, like you wouldn't want to pay your real estate agent like $1,000 to like help you sign a lease, right? I'd imagine. So there's just not that much money on the tenant side. So, but what we're doing, and we are trying to provide that service, is have like a text and communication platform where if you sign up for our service, you get access to a real estate agent. So if you have questions such as, can I negotiate rent? Is my landlord allowed to like do this? Is this like term in the contract legal? Then you have a licensed professional there via phone to help answer that question.
I like that.
Any other questions?
Two questions. So Finret's technique for acquiring the data through TransUnion, is there anything lost with the licensing agreement that you've agreed with TransUnion that a typical landlord or a client would receive for background-related information? So expanding upon that, when it comes to the documentation purposes, is there any missing areas that typically someone would have to pay more for, or anything that the landlord would expect to be seeing that may not be included from Finret?
Great question. So one, to your first point, we basically give them the same exact information that they would get from TransUnion. To your second point, there are reports, for instance, we provide data from the national, like some national database, national criminal database. It's not totally comprehensive. So when you, and not only is it not totally comprehensive, but there are chances that like if somebody has the same name as you and is from the same town, they could get a false positive. So for background information, and this is just a general piece of advice, if you get a background report and there's something on there, you have to verify it with the county records, because the county records are going to be the most accurate, up-to-date source. And that does cost additional money, and it's honestly a pain in the butt, because you actually in some cases have to go to the court and like physically go in there and request the documentation. So it's a service we provide, but it's a service we provide it through another provider, but we don't like advertise it as much because it's just a hassle to do.
No, most definitely. And then the second part question, because of the market segment that you're targeting and the audience of the clientele being the landlords and potentially in the future the actual individuals leasing or renting themselves, I know the college market segment was quite important, but this area is it's a large area, but it's not as large as an area like San Francisco or San Jose to implement this kind of market strategy and business idea. Was there a particular reason you chose this area to be a starting place, market segment-wise, rather than a larger population base? I just feel that a larger population base, such as San Jose or San Francisco, you'll still acquire yeses and nos, but there's so much more real estate and so much more of a hot commodity for real estate that it could do better potentially.
Yeah, so we chose Monterey Bay and Davis basically through luck of the draw. I met Brad and we kind of hit it off, and I just decided here because of the relationship we have. And then I went to Davis, so I have contacts up there too who are willing to help us out.
And in Davis, are you expanding out to Sacramento, just because you're so close to Sacramento out there?
In the future, yes, but we're running like very limited beta trials right now on campuses so that we can do it in like a highly contained and controlled environment where like we have like a lot of touch points with both our customers and the landlords who are distributing reports to. Because like honestly we're in uncharted territory here. In the previous class I was talking about how there are like a million things that could go wrong, and like we could spend months brainstorming everything that could possibly go wrong. But what we want to do is instead just build the product, kick it out the door, and then figure out like what the real life problems are when we release this thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good question. Yep.
A question slash suggestion I have, because I don't know if you guys like look at any, I'm sure you guys don't, but if you guys could go like based off basic information from people, and then collect that database and then have it on your website. So if somebody like saying like I got evicted, and like what are the probabilities I'm gonna get into a certain apartment based on the people that have already applied before me? Do you think that's something that probably be implemented in the future?
We just hired a data scientist. We are working on a data model to help, basically literally what you just said, predict whether or not like the apartment will be a good fit for the tenant and the landlord. But it's a long play because to build up a good model, you need like tens of thousands of records. So it's something like we're thinking about. It's not within our capability yet to do that. But that doesn't mean we can't apply for a patent on it. So we're kind of working simultaneously on both of these things. Cool. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can move to just want to see a demo. We just whipped this up. We finished it like last week. So you guys are the second class to, or second group of people who get to see it. So this is our MVP. We built this in about a week, and sorry, I'm having some trouble scrolling here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So this is our main page. If you want to check it out, this is the domain. Right now it's sitting on our stage server. This is like our test server, test and demo server. The process is very, very simple. What you do is you come here, you register for an account. Set the terms and conditions. And then you come here, and anybody who's applied to an apartment will recognize this is like a pretty standard application. It asks for things like birthday, social security number, name, and address. I'm not going to fill this out. I'm just going to log into an account. that has it set up already, but ostensibly you fill in your information, you press submit, and then you get dropped off at this new page. And this is it. You can review your application here, you can review the information. This is a credit report, you can look at the background report, the eviction report, and the financial report. So one of the cool things about our system is that when you apply to an apartment, you get to see all the data that the landlords see before the landlords get to see it. So you can go through and review it and make sure that everything is accurate. You can make sure that there are no false positives on your background report that might otherwise affect your employment, not employment, your lease. So once you've reviewed it and you think everything is good, you click on send report and you just add in the property managers or the landlords that you want to send your rental application to. And that's pretty much it. From there you communicate with your landlord, hey, am I accepted, am I not accepted? During the beta trial, we're going to have Finret agents calling up landlords who you send applications to. So you'll have an additional resource to help you out there. And yeah, like that's basically it. What do you guys think?
Easy fast.
Easy fast, simple.
I think my question is, like looking at it from an investor's viewpoint, is the money really there? How many people are actually realistically going to use it? How many people will know about it? And would people who are looking to get apartments go to the landlord, would the landlord be like, oh, use this specific site?
Damn, so you just hit me with all the hard questions. All right, so let's get into the economics. Let's get into the business model. Let's see, where should I start? There are about 40 million apartments in America that are being used for rentals. Now, statistically speaking, about half of those apartments turn over every year. So we're talking about 20 million apartments that need to be screened for every single year. The average type of person applying to this apartment has a roommate, has a spouse. So for each of these 20 million apartments, there are about 2.2 people. So that puts you at around 44 million. Now you multiply that by $35, which is our application fee, and the size of the market comes out to about $1.5 billion. So it's a pretty big market, right? If you capture 1%, 2%, you're a $10, $20 billion company. Our margins too, being an internet business, are really strong. We operate at around, like, I think we were saying like what, 25, 30% operating margin. We we sell our goods for $35, and we pay about $10 to $12 for them. So right now it's a very low overhead business. Like we have servers that we pay $100 for a month, and besides that, the rest of it is marketing costs.
Digging a little bit deeper into that question, when it comes to your overall approximation for the statistics, I do agree that those are very accurate statistics, but if you examined more of a practical statistic of your two beta places, of what the statistical figure is for Davis and what the statistical figure is for Monterey County, or even the Monterey Peninsula, just because practically, realistically speaking, I mean, those are going to be your two beta areas, and those will also be the two testing points for launching the business idea. Do you know those numbers for those two areas, or even one of them?
Roughly. So Davis has about 40,000 students. 30,000 of them live off campus. So using the same 50% metric, there are about 15,000 people in Davis. Monterey Bay has what, like I think 8,000 people?
7,500, yeah.
8,000.
7,500.
7,500. It seems like basically from a rough show of hands that I got from this morning class and today's class, about half of the people live off campus.
So these are all seniors, so they're going to be biased toward living off campus versus freshmen and sophomores would be a much lower number.
Gotcha. Okay. So I mean, again, like using that number, I'd say maybe around 3,000 people at CSU Monterey Bay. It's good because we're looking for like maybe 100 to 200 people for our beta. So I think that will, basically with that market size, we'll be able to hit those numbers.
Do you have a growth strategy in place at the moment? I mean, launching a beta-wise, it sounds like you have it fairly well figured out, but more of a 3 to 5 year plan of expansion to other cities, as well as acquiring maybe more overhead to fund the venture further. things like that. What's kind of the next steps you plan on moving the organization towards on the long-term track?
Yeah, so the long-term question is really hard because things change on honestly like a daily basis. So coming up with like a 3 to 5 year plan, I do it like, this is just like totally candid. I do it because investors like to see a long-term plan, but like realistically, like I literally change that plan like right before every investor presentation to be like, all right, here's what we said we were gonna do. Here's what actually happened. And then like I like make it so that like the plan looks like what actually happened is like what we were planning on doing. And then I make something up because like I have no idea what we're gonna be doing 2 years from now. Our plan right now is like it probably goes about to the like Q3, I'd say. We're running this beta to like until the end of Q1. We're working with a couple of angel groups to raise money at the end of Q1, pending a successful beta. And then we're ramping up our marketing costs to expand to most California. Beyond that, I don't really know.
Okay.
Like,
And at the moment, is
Yeah.
it something that by Q3 that it's sustainable for you and your team, for instance, for
we're projecting
salaries?
profitability by the end of the year.
Okay, so profitability, being able to pay yourself, or
Yeah.
profitability,
Yeah.
okay, also for the company as well, I assume?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
So getting away from the financial side of it, I'm just wondering, as for Finret, how do you guys safeguard the customer's information if it's all being dumped into your guys' servers?
Sweet, thank you for asking that. It took me forever to coax that out of the class this morning. Like it was like the last